2, 1.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Tony Lancefame. We're going to get started in about a minute or two. We'll just let some people trickle in. But in the meantime, why don't we start off with our tradition, a bad dad joke or two. So we'll start off with Steve. Hey, Steve, what do you call a fake Irish stone?
I don't know.
A shamrock. Hey, Leo. You there?
Hit me.
Okay. What kind of spells do Irish wizards cast?
Man, you got me, Tony.
Lucky Charms.
Good one.
Okay. Well, good. Well, why don't we get started? So I'm Tony Lancefame. I'm a security solution specialist, and we've got Steve Thomas and Leo Ramirez, compliance and technical specialists, who are going to talk about Purview Information Protection versus Defender for Cloud Apps. When I saw the topic, I originally thought this was kind of like Godzilla versus King Kong, but they actually work well together, more like peas and carrots. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Steve and let him kick things off. And then if there are any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A window. So Steve, it's off to you.
Thank you, Tony. So very happy to be here with you today with my partner in crime, Leo Ramirez. And, kind of the focus of this is going to be, what are our best and recommended practices right now currently for leveraging both Microsoft Purview Information Protection and Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. And we're going to start with kind of a basic overview and quick recap of what Purview MIP is, and then talk about scenarios when we would use MIP instead of Defender for Cloud App. Do some scenarios and walkthroughs, and then I'm going to turn it over to Leo, and Leo is going to talk a little bit about Defender for Cloud App, give a quick overview of that, and then talk about when, situations where you would use Defender for Cloud App instead of MIP or on top of MIP in some cases. And he'll also be, walking through some scenarios as well. And, I want to point out that this is an and story and not so much an or story. When it comes to, Purview Information Protection and Defender for Cloud Apps, we want you to kind of, reject the tyranny of or and embrace the genius of and, to use an expression there, because the great thing about these two is these two can work also very symbiotically in your, overall multi-cloud data protection strategy here. But what I'd like to do first is kind of give us a recap of the Purview Information Protection platform, which, I hesitate to use that word because, MIP is not just one feature or a specific product as much as it is a platform of offerings that's part of a framework, a suite of products that work to provide, visualization of sensitive data, life cycle protection for data, and at the end of the day, data loss prevention. And it's worthwhile for us to kind of review this framework piece by piece. The foundation of this is built off of the strength of our data classification service. This is where I send all customers at the very beginning. At the end of the day, we have to be able to not only, in order to protect our data, we need to know what type of data we want to protect, because we don't know what necessarily may be out there. So we need to find this critical information and properly identify, classify, and label this information. And then we can take these labels and assign them to various policies, be it retention, be it protection, data loss prevention policies, all sorts of things across the entire Purview and Defender and Microsoft 365 ecosystem, as well as extending it to our endpoints and on-premises resources as well. So once we light up all this dark data, we enable all this, the goodness in our platform. So, how do we do this? Well, we can classify based off of out-of-the-box sensitive data types. Data types that are reported to most of our customers that can be identified through standard formats. Checksums, their proximity to other data, and so on. And, everybody understands things like social security numbers, credit card numbers, and so on. That's a great place to start, and it's a quick way to get a program up and running. But for our state agencies that have critical and proprietary data, that's not going to be enough. So, and especially if they have specific federal and state regulations that they have to abide by. So they're going to need custom, sensitive information types. They're going to need things like regular expressions that can be articulated using, Boolean logic, or something like an employee number. Keywords, large number of keywords that, form a dictionary uploaded by a customer. It could be, exact data match is what we call that, where a customer can take millions of pieces of data and use them to inform, whether you're using this in DLP or extending this to Defender for Cloud Apps that Leo will talk about. And it's something that can be updated dynamically. The database for this exact match can have up to 100 million rows of data. This is really good if if a retailer wants to put rules around sensitive information like credit card numbers, with strict rules around the specific numbers it may have for its customers. And also, we recognize that you have proprietary information that only you know and only you can identify, because it's within your entity, within your agent. And so this is where machine learning and our AI come into, handy use here, where we ask you to train us as to what your proprietary information is being protected here. We call these trainable classifiers, where and you don't need to necessarily have the data science or AI skills here, because you can simply leverage our Purview platform and simply upload the relevant files directly to the compliance portal, and then our solution will reason over that, and the admin will review the guesses made by the tool to basically make sure we've been trained properly. This trains that model, then it can be published. And once published, the trainable classifier will identify the sensitive information types, just like the out-of-the-box or custom types. And, from time to time, you might need to retrain as your proprietary information evolves. Again, all of these are our foundational part of our information protection platform, our data classification engine. Now, once that's in place, then we can start to plug into the rest of your ecosystem, because Office 365 can leverage this. All of the endpoints, Windows, Mac, OS, iOS, Android. This helps us even with on-premises applications as well. And it's not, as you can see, it's not just a Windows story or a Microsoft Cloud story. We realize that users work with the devices and with the operating systems that they choose, where they can be the most productive on Macs, iOS, Android, as well as Windows. And going beyond Microsoft 365, here's Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps up here. Defender for Cloud Apps does a lot to enable security in governments. One of those things is to kind of regulate and govern sensitive documents and third-party cloud solutions like Salesforce, Box, G Suite. Of course, I'm going to save that for Leo later on. And then, of course, most sophisticated organizations have their data on premises as well as in Office 365 or other cloud properties. As the Microsoft Information Protection Scanner can be leveraged and deployed to extend this to your on-premises repositories and apply labels and protection. This includes even on-premises SharePoint and on-premises file shares. And then the most important thing is DLP. At the end of the day, this is the last mile for zero trust for our customers, getting that. And again, if you are leveraging Windows, you don't need any additional management agents, which gives us a big advantage over third-party solutions. And it also allows for a better user and admin experience. But even if you have other desktop operating systems like Mac OS, yes, that will require an agent, but it also extends these capabilities to your Mac OS endpoints as well. We can regulate what goes on USB drives, what can be copied to the cloud, to network drives, printed, or moved to the clipboard for other other examples there. And we've expanded Microsoft Purview Information Protection to include not just selected file types like documents and email, but with Microsoft Purview Data Governance, the solution known that was formerly under the Azure Purview umbrella. We now cover Azure Blobs, Cosmos DB, SQL databases, Amazon Web Services, S3 repositories, providing a similar sensitive information type and labeling experience. This is another foundational change for Microsoft Information Protection, making this a holistic information protection solution. Now, let's start with a little bit of a deep dive into our sensitive information types. Now, our sensitive information types is aimed, at your compliance officers who need to identify that sensitive information in their environments. And, examples of our built-in SITs include passport information, credit card information, social security numbers, medical record, patient IDs. We have over 300 built-in SITs, and this is going to extend and being leveraged in all of these solutions that are tied back into the Microsoft Information Protection Platform, including our DLP policies, retention labels, sensitivity labels, going all the way into other solutions in Purview like insider risk management, communication compliance. And the great thing about the advanced information protection and governance solutions, especially that come with the G5 and E5, is the auto labeling capabilities. As I tell my customers, yes, if you have Office 365, already know about the, even with G3 or E3, you already know about sensitivity labels. There's some out-of-the-box sensitivity labels that can be manually applied. But what if I told you that there are scenarios where you no longer have to rely on humans to do the right thing? You can set up auto labeling policies that when it detects certain types of sensitive information types, it's going to automatically slap sensitivity and retention labels onto this this data. So we can kind of get around the fundamental problem that we have of the human factor, whether it's malicious, but in most cases, it's usually accidental. Now, we talked about SITs. We also have EDM, or exact data match, and the exact data match classification allows you to create unique sensitive information types that use exact data values to detect matches instead of these generic patterns. For example, looking for a specific customer social security number or GDPR data subject access request. First, what we do is we define an EDM schema, and then we create this EDM info type based on that schema. And a schema is an XML file where the field names provide a one-to-one mapping, to sensitive information, source table, column name. It denotes which fields are searchable along with any search modifying parameters like ignoring case sensitive values or delimiters. And then we have, when we place these in comparison, when to use SITs versus exact data matches or EDMs, use of SITs are aimed at compliance officers who need to identify sensitive data in their environment. And then, exact data matches are basically customized SITs designed to be more specific and be more scalable, more dynamic, easily refreshed. EDMs, of course, result in fewer false positives, and it's designed to work with more structured, more sensitive data, and it's again going to be handle sensitive information more securely when you're when you're preventing it from sharing it with anyone, including Microsoft, and it can also be used with several different cloud services there as well. Now, when you use EDMs with DLP, there's going to be some additional processes that are going to have to be used here, because again, we're going to have to understand and be able to know and be able to recognize this information. So the process is going to require a few extra steps. You want to create a group in the Azure AD portal named EDM Data Uploaders, add all the accounts that will be working with the EDM sits, and you'll use the EDM upload agent, which is available for download. And then, of course, there are some tools and switches that you will need to use as well. But it's a fairly straightforward process to do that with. And again, to look at an example here, you would just start a command prompt as an admin, and you'd execute and create the directory. And then, of course, you would connect to your tenant with your username and your password, and then you're going to run the save schema, validate data switch, upload data switch, and get session. And this is basically the process you would go through to actually upload that information there. And then that's going to create a CSV containing hashes of those entries and upload it back to the compliance manager for use with other services like DLP. Now, the other complex sensitive information that we talked about earlier is what we call trainable classifiers. This is where you train our backend intelligence to identify sensitive data by uploading and giving us examples of the data that you're interested in, rather than creating, trying to identify the elements through, pattern matches or advanced regular expressions. That can be extremely time consuming. It's very difficult. We don't design these products for developers or IT pros. These are designed towards legal and compliance and regulation officers. And so what we do is we give you two options here. You can build your trainable classifier off of one of our inbox pre-trained classifiers. We have multiple pre-trained classifiers that you can start using, like legal agreements, customer complaints, discriminatory harassment language, profanity, information technology, source code, healthcare related. But of course, there is the custom trainable classifier, in which you would actually upload a document set, and we would then analyze that document set, and you would get a chance to review that, so we can actually have a strong knowledge of your proprietary information that we're trying to protect here. And again, at the end of the day, it's all about knowing your data, understanding what's sensitive, understanding what's business critical. And as data is discovered and classified, even out of the box, activating a trial, you're going to be able to, from day one, have great insight into what data is being currently discovered, at least across Microsoft 365. You will still have to deploy the MIP scanners to your onboard or to your on-premises environments, and they'll need to be on board before you start seeing those insights. But from day one, you'll be able to leverage the Content Explorer to kind of browse and review the content users are storing and sharing in Microsoft 365 estates. And with sufficient permissions, you can even review the actual content using our in-place content, our content exploring features here, like our Content Explorer. And Content Explorer comes with the capability of applying filters and sorting by location. And of course, you can go into the Activity Explorer and see what kind of information is going on. Of course, the Activity Explorer is going to be more useful once you actually have policies in place, especially DLP policies in place. So with with that being said, at the end of the day, the strength of Microsoft Information Protection is ultimately the labeling, the sensitivity labelings, because once you actually can identify and classify your critical information, then the sensitivity labels can be leveraged across a lot of Microsoft 365 and Purview solutions as well. Now, what I want to do right now is I want to shift over into the compliance portal here and kind of walk you through what you're going to see. Now, one of the first places I direct customers who are leveraging the Microsoft Purview Information Protection platform is to get over into the data classification engine. And so we're going to go over here to data classification overview, and you're going to get insights, and these insights are going to be ongoing as you start applying and configuring your sensitive information types and trainable classifiers. Now, in this particular case, you're seeing a lot of trainable classifiers that I'm leveraging a lot here, and you can see that there are some serious concerns that probably need to be addressed here as well. Even on day one, you're going to see your sensitive information types detected based upon what we're seeing in your Microsoft 365 estate. And of course, as this as I continue to apply various features of information protection, I'm going to get even more enhanced insights inside of my tenant, not just things like sensitive information types and trainable classifiers, but if I've got a combination of labeling policies, whether it's manual or whether it's auto labeling, I'm going to see all of the top sensitivity labels applied to content. I'm going to see if I've got retention labels, the top retention labels being used here. In my particular tenant here, I've got a lot of resumes and tax related stuff that needs to be retained for various reasons. You kind of get a dashboard of where the sensitivity labels are being applied the most in your estate and where the retention labels are being applied. And of course, kind of insights into your labeling activity as well. It's a really, really nice page to kind of, start with. And of course, where you can go and further, define all of your sensitive information types, trainable classifiers, publish them in EDM classifiers. And then of course, from day one, you'll be able to leverage the Content Explorer, and in the Content Explorer, you can see various types of sensitive information that's out of the box and where it's being leveraged, and you can drill down as well into various estates if you need to kind of find out more about what might be going on there. Oops, of course, I need to make sure that this demo user gets the appropriate permission next time. But of course, that's a good point, a good time to point out that various roles are going to be required to leverage these features inside the Purview console as well. And our Microsoft Learn documentation is very good at determining the roles. And it's also important to point out that a lot of this information cannot be seen until people have been given the proper roles and authorization to drill down to certain levels as well. I do want to jump back real quick to the slide deck, and for the sake of time, I don't want to dwell too long on the demos, but I want to also just kind of rehash some great use cases for leveraging MIP over some of the built-in stuff related to sensitive information in Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. If you need to secure data in your Microsoft 365 estate and the endpoint, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps is mainly for the cloud and for third-party applications. You want to leverage MIP if you want to secure data in your Microsoft 365 estate on-prem and on the endpoint. If you need to deploy anything requiring scanner agents, that's going to be a great use case for leveraging MIP over MDCA. As we talked about earlier, you need to create a custom sensitive information type. You want to use the Purview data classification blade. If you have lots and lots of large folders with tens or thousands of files needing various labeling with SharePoint Online or OneDrive, you're going to need the Microsoft Information Protection product. And of course, last but not least, with DLP being a big concern, if you want to leverage some of these regulatory compliance templates for data loss prevention, Purview Endpoint DLP has what I call them, it's not an official term, but I call them easy button templates for DLP policies here, because if you go here into data loss prevention and you go to create a policy, when you create a policy, you can create a custom one from scratch, but you can also leverage one of our templates. For example, if you need a DLP policy that ensures that we are properly protecting HIPAA-related information, you can leverage the HIPAA enhanced template. Likewise, in the financial side of things, if you want to ensure that PCI protected data is actually going to be protected through this DLP policy, you can actually leverage the PCI DSS template as well. And once you set all this stuff up, you can always put these policies in test mode, so you can kind of get an idea of what kind of signal to noise ratio that you may have in place here. And I like to leverage back in the data classification blade. I love to leverage Activity Explorer, because Activity Explorer is kind of a great way of me seeing what's actually happening here over time. I'm looking at not only things that are in play from a policy standpoint where I can see policy matching, I can also look at simulations for things in test mode, like auto labeling. And in this particular case, I've got DLP matches for things like, I've got a user that's doing some cloud uploading, and I've got some auto labeling that's happening related to a HIPAA policy that I have an exchange. And it turns out, looking at some of these subject titles here, I might need to go in there and fine tune that a little bit, because it seems like I'm getting a lot of things being labeled that may not necessarily need to be labeled as well. But again, at the end of the day, Microsoft Information Protection Platform is going to be needed for specific use cases, but also want to point out, and as Leo will dive into, MIP and Defender for Cloud App is not necessarily an either-or scenario. It's many times it can also be used as an and or a better together strategy as well. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over. I think I kept within my allotted time, Leo. I wanted to make sure I give Leo plenty of time here, but I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to my counterpart, Leo Ramirez, who is the compliance technical specialist at Microsoft. I know he has an official title, but I like calling him the compliance technical specialist because he's taught me just about everything I know.
Thank you, Steve. That was an amazing overview of Microsoft Information Protection and the power and of the capabilities and how it's unified. And I loved how you said it's really a unified story. It's not either or, it's both. Why choose when you have both, right? So I wanted to start on this slide because a lot of customers I've talked to, they don't know what a cloud access security broker is. So I just kind of wanted to level set here. And as customers are moving to the cloud, they're doing this because they want to improve productivity, not only for users, but also for their IT teams. But when they do this, you're introducing challenges. And one of those challenges is security. You want to keep things secure, your applications, your data. But in order to get the most benefit out of moving to the cloud, you need to have a balance of supporting access to users, but also protecting critical information. And this is how a CASB, that's CASB for Cloud Access Security Broker, This is how it can help because it adds safeguards to your organization, how users are using applications, and how you can enforce your security policy. Simple way to think of a CASB is think of it as a gatekeeper, a man in the middle who's brokering access and can do this in real time so that users can access the resources they need, no matter where they're located or what device they're using. So how CASB does this is by discovering applications and giving you visibility into shadow IT and monitoring user activities in their app and what could be abnormal behaviors. But what we're talking about today is data protection, data security, right? And as I go from left to right, many organizations that they're moving to the cloud, there's going to be some unmanaged applications, aka unsanctioned applications. So first step is getting insights on where those applications are and how they're being used so that you can govern them. Well, after you discover those unsanctioned applications, you can sanction the ones that users they need to use. And this is going to allow the CASB to monitor and protect information that's moving in and outside of those applications. And then lastly, there's threats coming inside and outside of managed applications. But there's also scenarios where sensitive data can be leaked from unsanctioned applications. And the CASB can help you in these scenarios as well. Now, all of these scenarios can help no matter where the user's located, whether they're inside the office, they're at home, or they're working from Starbucks, and even if they're on an unmanaged device. So, what makes Defender for Cloud Apps more than the typical average CASB? Well, one thing is it integrates with not only first-party identity provider, Azure, but it also integrates with third-party identity providers. You can also discover and control cloud applications as they're being used by users. And it's going to protect you against cyber threats, abnormal logins, mass downloads. If there's rogue applications out there, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps can help remediate those threats. You're also going to get some deep insights in security posture management, how across all your cloud resources and applications. And we have a new app governance capability where you can actually define some relevant OAuth applications and those behaviors. Of course, what we're talking about today, again, protecting information, knowing where your data is at, being able to classify and protect it, whether it's in native Microsoft applications or third-party applications. What I want to highlight on this slide is that the Microsoft CASB, Defender for Cloud Apps, it's a CASB, again, not only for Microsoft. It also supports these many third-party applications. These are just some that fit on this slide. During the demo, you're going to see an example of Google Workspace, how I've connected Google Workspace, a Google Cloud instance. You're also going to see some of the native connectors. So these are the three phases that for protecting information in Defender for Cloud Apps. And it might look familiar to you what you've seen in Steve's presentation. First step is understanding where your sensitive information is and what your exposure is. One of the things that I really like about Defender for Cloud Apps is that you can get visibility on how files are being shared and the collaborators that are on those files. You can see what's being overshared as well. And then you have the capability to be able to classify and protect files, no matter where they're stored. If they're stored in Office 365, good. If they're stored in a third-party application, you're covered. the Microsoft information protection capabilities that Steve mentioned, they actually extend to Defender for Cloud Apps. And then finally, the third phase is being able to monitor and remediate those activities and investigate in real time and be able to remove permissions and notify users if necessary. So when you're investigating files, there's many ways to find anomalies. You can find the ownership of a file. You can label the file automatically. You can see how many collaborators are on a file. If they've been matched, whether they're external, public, internal. Other things you can do is you can create policies to generate alerts and trigger automatic remediation actions. You can be notified, and you can actually notify the users when there's policy violations. And this can be automatically done. And of course, what you're going to see also in the demos, you're going to be able to automatically label and protect not only existing files, but also files that have been recently uploaded to these cloud services. So this is a typical scenario for protecting sensitive files in the cloud. Let's say a user named Leo, he uploads a file that has sensitive content to a cloud application. Maybe it's Dropbox, maybe it's Box, OneDrive, or Google Workspace. Well, a classification label can automatically be applied to that file so that it's protected with rights management. Then, if I try to save that file with somebody external to Microsoft, well, that person who tries to access that file is not going to be able to open it because it has protection settings on it. And then the admin is going to get an alert and probably send me an email or give me a call, letting me know I violated the policy. All right, so these are some of the use cases for leveraging Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps over MIP. If you want to discover, classify, and protect files in third-party application repositories, like some of the ones you've seen here, you want to use Defender for Cloud Apps. This is something that cannot be done with Purview. If you want to monitor or block certain specific file activities in real time in cloud applications, this is a capability that Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps can provide. Also, if you want to prevent users from doing certain activities while they're accessing cloud files on unmanaged device, this is probably, I would say, the #1 use case I see with my government customers. All of these I've seen, but this gets asked a lot about. Well, the key here is this can be done with Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. Simple policy that can be created. There's something similar that can be done also with Microsoft Purview. If you put a sensitivity label on a SharePoint site or a Teams site, you can get much of this functionality as well. Here's another good one. If you want to discover stale files or files that have been shared with users with a personal email address or an unauthorized domain externally, well, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps also, this is a use case for Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. And you can do things like remove collaborators. You can apply a sensitivity label, and you can even make the file private. Lastly, this is just a handful that some of the top ones that I've come across in working with customers. You can protect files when they're downloaded from the cloud. This is a pretty cool feature. So if a user, think about a user working on a system, on a file that's in SharePoint or OneDrive, and it has sensitive information in it, but it hasn't been classified. And that user tries to download or downloads that file, well, a label can automatically be put on that file so that it's protected as soon as it comes down to the user's local system. All right, so before we get in the demo, I just want to explain the types of policies that are available when you're protecting information in Defender for Cloud Apps. You have file policies. This is going to be the type of policy you're going to want to configure for some of these scenarios, like when there's publicly shared files out there you want to get a handle of. You want to discover if there's been file sharing with external domains or if there's stale files. A key capability of file policies is that they can also do content inspection and enforce sensitivity labels and prevent data leaks. There's also conditional access policies, but there's two types of policies within this pillar. You have access policies, and these types of policies, they enable real-time monitoring, so you have control over access, how cloud applications are being accessed. And this can be based on the user, the location, device, and the application. You also have session policies. These are a lot like access policies, but it gives you even more granular controls, like limiting or restricting activities within the file. All right. Now let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the demo. I'm just going to pull up my demo environment. All right, so you probably wonder, how do you get to Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps in case you haven't used the solution before? Well, you saw Steve was in the Microsoft Purview portal. An easy way to get there is if you go down to more resources, and here it is. You click on Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, open the solution. Right. One of the first things you're going to want to do to integrate Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps with Purview, with information protection, is you're going to want to go to Settings up here in the upper right. And you click on Settings again and scroll down to Information Protection. And within this section, there's Microsoft Information Protection. Now, by default, these are unchecked. But if you check, automatically scan new files for Microsoft Information Protection sensitivity labels and content inspection, that's going to integrate. That's going to help you integrate with the solution. Now, that's step one. Now, probably the next thing you're going to want to do is connect those applications that you're interested in securing. So you can easily create a connected app or add a connected app by going to Investigate and then Connected Apps. And if you click on Connect an App, there's a long list of applications that you can connect. Some of them are Microsoft, but most of them are going to be third party. I've already added a few. I have Office 365. This is going to be SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, Exchange Online. I also added Microsoft Azure. But you see here, I've added my Google Cloud provider instance, also Google Workspace. This is going to give me visibility on what's going on in my enterprise Google account and also Google Workspace. Right? Now, after you've connected your applications and they're green, indicating that they're connected successfully, you can go right over to Investigate and Files and start seeing what's going on. This is going to be similar to what Steve showed you in data classification. This is where you can get to know and understand what kind of sensitive data is in your cloud estate. For example, right here, it shows that these are the files that have been detected in Google Workspace. Looks like I have some files that may have some sensitive information in them. but I can also, I can change this. I can change this to OneDrive or Exchange Online. I can even select the users that I'm interested in learning if they have sensitive information in these cloud repositories and applications. I can see if these files are exposed publicly, if they've been shared with the public link from SharePoint or OneDrive, or if they're just internal. I can also click on advanced filters, and if I really want to see where stale files might be, I can see when these files were last modified and choose a date. So if I choose a year ago from today, this is gonna populate with files that may be older than a year that have been shared externally. Another thing I can do is if I see something here that looks suspicious, right away, I can take action. I can click on these little 3 dots and I can do things like I can apply a sensitivity label. So right away, I can protect this file. Even if it's in Google Workspace, I can give it a sensitivity label that has protection settings on it. And these labels, these are coming from Purview, Microsoft Information Protection. And that's why Steve, that's the way he put it simply. It's not either or, it's together. So I can apply that label. This file is protected. And if this was Google Workspace, this was a file that's in Google Workspace, I can do the same thing. That looks like sensitive information. It says credit cards. Hey, I don't want to take a chance. I want to protect it right away. This one. Apply sensitivity label. I'm going to put confidential internal. All right. Another thing I can do right from here is now that I understand what's out there, I can right away build a policy. It gives me an option. And I can start building policies based on what was in that search criteria. But let's talk more about policies. I'm going to go over here to control. And this is where I'm going to find the different policies that can be created in Defender for Cloud Apps. Let's start with information protection. Here I already have a few policies that have been created. I created one for this is one for stale files shared externally that are more than 6 months old. Looks like I created one to automatically label PDF files. And here I've created one also for protecting sensitive information that may be in Google Drive. Let's click on this one first, just so you can see the settings. Very flexible file policy. The category is sharing control. Here are the conditions that have been set. Access level equals public, external, or publicly linked, has a public link, and it was last modified over 180 days ago. And I can apply it to different locations or folders, and even different users and groups. I can do an inspection method. If I choose data classification service, this is going to allow me to inspect the files. If it has sensitive information in it and it's been stale for over 6 months, then I can do things like apply a sensitivity label. And then I can apply governance actions. So right now for this policy, I'm only governing OneDrive and SharePoint. And one of the things I want to do for SharePoint is send the user, if there's a match on this policy, I want the user to be notified, the owner to be notified. But I can do things like remove external users. I can also remove collaborators. So we see this solution is very powerful in what you can do and govern your data that's not only stale, but other example, Let's go back to policies, information protection. Let's take a look at this Google Drive, protecting files in Google Drive. So this I've selected, if the file is public or has a public link and is external and even internal, and it has these types of sensitive information, I want to automatically, in the governance actions, I want to automatically apply a sensitivity label, confidential internal. So here we're seeing that tight integration, not only with native applications, but with third-party applications. Now that I've discussed a file policy, let's take a look at conditional access policies. And there's two types. There's access policies and session policies, as I indicated on the slide. Now, these do require a conditional access policy. I've already created two for two different scenarios. This one I've created to block downloads on unmanaged devices. And this one is to block access to Teams to a specific group for unmanaged devices. Simple policies. Let's take a look at first the session policy. I have one, and for the sake of time, I'm going to show you one example of each. So here I have this one's configured to block activities like print, paste, cut, download for this specific group. And if the device doesn't equal Intune compliant hybrid Azure AD joined, basically if it's unmanaged, then it's going to, and there's social security numbers found, it's going to block the download. Just to give you an example of what that looks like from the end user perspective, this is a user named Pradeep. He's on an unmanaged device. He's on his home computer. This is Pradeep. He goes to his OneDrive. And because he's on an unmanaged device, actually, let me show you how the application, how he's going to be monitored. So if he goes to portal.office.com, he's going to get the screen letting him know, hey, all your activities are going to be monitored. And this is because it's a session policy. So he's already being notified. And if he goes to his OneDrive and starts doing things like downloading files or printing or attempting to print files, let's see what happens. So my files, and if he tries to download this file, yeah, he's warned. You can't. This download is blocked, and this is coming from Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. That's session policy. Additionally, if he opens this file and he tries to print it, he's also going to be prevented from doing so. Download blocked. Printing is blocked. So really showing you the power of how session policies. Another example I want to show you is I created another session policy. This is not specific to an unmanaged device. This is a user named Alan. Alan is prevented from downloading sensitive information. Actually, it's going to automatically put a label on a file that has sensitive information. So this is a file that was created a few minutes ago that has social security numbers in it. Now, DLP from Purview is already monitoring this file, but it doesn't prevent it from being downloaded. And also, I don't have an automatic label policy. So, but if I download this file, because I have session policy configured to automatically label files. When I open this file, it's already going to have the confidential internal label on it because that's the way I configured the policy. You see, has a confidential internal. Now, let's go back to Defender for Cloud Apps and show you how access policies work. So access policy, I'll change it. I have one configured to block the use of Teams when users are on unmanaged devices, when they're on their home computer. Simple policy, device tag equals, does not equal Intune or hybrid Azure AD joined, and the application is Teams. And I've scoped it to a specific user group. And here's what I want to happen. I want the block, and I want the user to get a message saying that unmanaged devices aren't allowed to access Teams. So here we go. I'm going over to Alex's machine. Alex is working from home. This is Alex, and he has Teams bookmarked. Tries to open Teams. So log in, and he gets a message notifying him that access to Teams is blocked and unmanaged devices aren't allowed to access Teams. Now, there are so many different scenarios for Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. I just showed you a handful, and that we're really focused on data security. But in order to go deep on Defender for Cloud Apps, we would need at least 5 sessions. But I want to leave time for Tony to go over these last 2 slides, because you may be asking, what do you need to do to get started? Or what can you do next?
So thanks, Leo. Great job with your presentation, you and Steve. So for those who are interested in how to what to do next with all this great information that you witnessed today, we've got some partner-led workshops that you can take advantage of, and of course reach out to your account team or your security solution specialist to get started there. If you have Premier or Unified support, there's some great workshops and proactive services that you can take advantage. So reach out to your CSAM for more information on that. And and of course, we can't forget about our friends in Fast Track. Fast Track is a valuable resource included with your subscription, and they can help you enable and deploy many of these solutions that you have with your Microsoft 365 subscription. And of course, we've got our if you need to if you have a specific question, you want to reach out to the company, the SLG compliance team. You've got our email alias, msslgcompliance@microsoft.com. Please feel free to send an email to us, and someone will respond to your question. Next slide, please. Okay, so as you see here, we got some additional resources, and if you want, we will be sending the slides out after the call, so you'll have access to these hyperlinks. And and our next webinar is 2 weeks out. Microsoft Purview, the end-to-end story for governing your data estate. So please feel free to you should have the registration link, and if you don't, someone on the team can send it to you. It's available on our Microsoft events website. And with that being said, I know we've got about 2 minutes left, so let's take a look and see if there are any questions in the Q&A window. Looks like there aren't any, but if anyone in the audience wants to ask a question, please feel free to do so. Okay, well, it seems like there aren't any questions today. Leo and Steve, a great job. Are there any closing comments that you want to convey to the team?
Don't miss that next webinar. It's going to be probably one of our best webinars because we're going to tell the end-to-end story. Going to be highlighted by BB, our compliance TS, and also one of our solution architects, Brett Hackford.
Excellent. Oh, great. Okay, well, thanks everyone for attending today, and we'll meet in 2 weeks. Take care.